Europe is not equally Catholic anymore. In some countries, Catholicism has become mostly a cultural memory, seen in old cathedrals, national holidays, and family traditions that no longer shape daily life. But in other countries, the Catholic faith is still visible, measurable, and alive. People still fill parish churches on Sundays. Pilgrimages still draw entire families. Catholic festivals still stop city streets. Baptisms, marriages, Marian devotion, parish schools, and public processions still show that the Church is not only part of history, it is still part of the nation's present identity. This ranking of the top 10 most Catholic countries in Europe 2026 is not based on beauty, tourism, or famous churches alone. We are looking at countries where Catholic identity remains strongest through population share, public devotion, parish life, religious practice, and the role of Catholic tradition in national culture. Some names will feel obvious, such as Italy, Spain, Portugal, and Poland. But the real surprise is that the most Catholic country in Europe may not be the one most people would guess. So before we begin, subscribe to the channel, because this countdown will show where Catholic Europe is still strongest in 2026 and why the number one country deserves far more attention than it usually receives. Number 10. Austria. Austria enters this list with a Catholic identity that is not loud, but deeply structured into the life of the country. Around 55% of the population is registered as Catholic, and that word registered matters in Austria more than it does in many other places. Catholic identity here is not only something spoken privately at home or remembered during Christmas. It is connected to the public system through the Kirchenbeitrag, the church contribution paid by registered Catholics to support parishes, pastoral work, religious education, social service, and the daily life of the church. That creates a very different kind of Catholic culture. In Austria, faith is not only seen in paintings, music, and old imperial churches. It also has a practical weight. To remain officially Catholic means accepting a visible responsibility toward the Church. For some people, that system is controversial. For others, it is a reminder that Catholicism is not simply an emotional label, but a community that must be sustained by real commitment. Vienna shows this better than almost anywhere else. St. Stephen's Cathedral rises in the center of the city like a stone memory that has refused to fade. Tourists pass through its doors every day, but the cathedral is not only a landmark. It still carries the sound of prayer, the rhythm of Mass, and the presence of a faith that has survived emperors, wars, modern politics, and cultural change. Austria may not be the most visibly intense Catholic country in Europe, but it remains one of the places where art, public life, history, and Catholic responsibility still meet in a powerful way. Number 9. France. France holds one of the most complicated Catholic stories in Europe. Around 57.5% of the population still identifies with Catholicism, yet the country is also famous for laïcité, a strict form of secular public life that keeps religion away from the center of state identity. On paper, this might make France look like a country moving further and further from its Catholic past. But the deeper story is not that simple. For centuries, France was called the eldest daughter of the Church, and even now that title has not completely lost its force. It lives in the great pilgrimage roads, in the shrines, in the silence of rural churches, and in the emotional power of places like Lourdes, where millions continue to arrive with candles, wheelchairs, prayers, and hopes too heavy to explain. France may argue with its Catholic inheritance, but it has never fully escaped it. The rebuilding of Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris made this tension visible to the whole world. For some, it was a national monument being restored. For others, it was a spiritual wound being healed in public. Young French Catholics have also become part of the surprise. In a country often described as deeply secular, growing numbers of young people are showing renewed interest in baptism, pilgrimage, confession, sacred liturgy, and a more serious Catholic identity. France is not a simple story of decline. It is a country where secular pressure is real, but so is spiritual hunger. And that is why its place among the most Catholic countries in Europe still matters. Number 8. Spain. Spain does not present Catholicism quietly. It carries it through the streets, paints it onto stone, sings it through processions, and turns faith into a public language the whole country can recognize. Around 58 to 61% of Spaniards identify as Catholic. But Spain cannot be understood through percentages alone. Its Catholic identity is visual, dramatic, architectural, and deeply emotional. During Holy Week, especially in cities like Seville, faith steps out of the church and enters the public square. Brotherhoods move slowly through crowded streets. Sacred images of Christ and the Virgin Mary pass beneath balconies filled with silent faces. Candles, drums, incense, and prayer turn the city into a living catechism. Even people who rarely attend Mass often understand the meaning of these days, because Catholic memory has shaped the Spanish imagination for centuries. The same can be seen on the Way of St. James, where pilgrims still cross mountains, villages, and long rural roads toward Santiago de Compostela. Some walk with strong faith, others begin with questions, grief, curiosity, or exhaustion. Yet the path itself is Catholic in its bones. Spain shows that a country can carry the faith not only through doctrine and statistics, but through roads, festivals, cathedrals, art, family customs, and public emotion. Catholicism in Spain is not only a religion people claim, it is a language the nation has learned to see. Number 7. Slovakia. Slovakia is one of the first real surprises in this countdown. Many international viewers know that Central Europe has become deeply uneven in religious life. The Czech Republic, right next door, is often described as one of the most secular countries in Europe. Yet Slovakia, sharing the same region and much of the same 20th century trauma, has remained far more Catholic. Nearly 60% of the population belongs to the Roman Catholic Church, and that strength did not survive by accident. For Slovak Catholics, faith was not always protected by comfort. During the Cold War, Catholic life faced pressure, surveillance, restrictions, and fear. Churches stayed open. But the deeper life of belief often had to be carried quietly through families, underground networks, faithful priests, and ordinary believers who refused to let the next generation forget how to pray. This gives Slovak Catholicism a different kind of weight. It is not only inherited culture, it is memory with scars. The modern picture adds another layer. Slovakia still has visible parish life, Marian devotion, Catholic education, pilgrimages, and youth movements that continue to gather young believers in a region where religious practice can no longer be taken for granted. Its place on this list matters because Slovakia proves that Catholic identity in Europe is not only strongest in the famous Western countries with grand cathedrals and global pilgrimage routes. Sometimes it is strongest in smaller nations where faith was tested, protected, and passed on at home before it was celebrated in public. Number 6. Ireland. Ireland carries Catholicism differently now than it once did. For much of modern history, the Emerald Isle was known as one of the most devout Catholic nations in the world. A place where parish life shaped villages, schools, families, politics, and even the Irish imagination itself. Today, about 69% of the population still identifies as Catholic. But that number now carries a more complicated story. Ireland has changed quickly, and Catholic life has moved through disappointment, secularization, public debate, and a difficult reassessment of trust. Yet Catholicism has not disappeared from the Irish soul. It remains in the memory of St. Patrick, whose mission became inseparable from the nation's Christian identity. It remains in ancient monastic landscapes like Glendalough, where stone ruins, round towers, and quiet valleys still speak of a time when Ireland helped preserve Christian learning for Europe. It remains in blessings spoken at family tables, in funerals, in rural churches, in pilgrimage paths, and in the global Irish Catholic identity carried by millions far beyond the island itself. Ireland's place on this list does not depend on pretending nothing has changed. Its power comes from the tension between a fading old Catholic order and a deeper inheritance that has not vanished. The faith here is no longer held by the same social force it once had, but its roots still run through language, memory, music, education, family tradition, and national symbolism. Ireland is a country in transition, but not a country without Catholic depth. Its story is one of loss, endurance, and the search for a more honest way to carry an ancient faith into a new century. Number 5. Portugal. Portugal rises higher on this list because Catholicism here is not only inherited, it is still practiced through devotion, pilgrimage, and family memory with unusual warmth. More than 80% of the population remains connected to the Catholic faith, and the center of that spiritual gravity is impossible to miss. The Basilica of Our Lady of Fatima is not simply a famous religious landmark. It is one of the great Catholic pilgrimage hearts of the modern world. Fatima gives Portugal a spiritual voice that reaches far beyond its borders. Since the apparitions of the Virgin Mary to 3 shepherd children, the message of prayer, conversion, penance, and hope has shaped the country's Catholic imagination. Pilgrims arrive from Portugal, Brazil, Africa, Europe, Asia, and the Americas, many carrying rosaries, candles, photographs, illness, gratitude, or private grief. Some come walking long distances, some arrive with families. Some return every year because Fatima is not only a place they visit, it is a place where they bring their lives. Portugal's Catholic identity feels natural because it moves through ordinary life before it ever becomes a public statement. It passes through grandparents teaching prayers, parents bringing children to Mass, villages celebrating feast days, and families treating pilgrimage as part of life rather than a rare event. Portugal may be a modern European country, but its Catholic heart still beats through Marian devotion, parish culture, and a quiet confidence that faith belongs not only to the past, but to the ordinary rhythm of the present. Number 4. Croatia. Croatia stands near the top of Catholic Europe because faith here is closely tied to national memory. Nearly 81% of Croatians identify as Catholic, but the meaning goes deeper than a percentage. Along the Adriatic coast, in mountain villages, and across historic towns, Catholicism has long been one of the anchors that helped Croatians preserve language, family identity, and a sense of belonging through centuries of pressure and conflict. In the Balkan region, religion and national identity often carry serious weight. For many Croatian families, the parish church was not only a place for Sunday Mass, it was where children were baptized into a shared story, where weddings connected generations, where funerals placed grief inside faith, and where feast days reminded communities that they had survived difficult times together. Marian devotion gives Croatian Catholicism a strong emotional center. Pilgrimages, rosaries, local shrines, and public processions remain visible signs of a faith that is both personal and national. Medjugorje, just across the border in Bosnia and Herzegovina, has also shaped the spiritual life of the wider region, drawing many pilgrims seeking confession, healing, silence, and hope. Croatia's Catholic strength comes from this bond between homeland, family, memory, and devotion. Number 3. Italy. Italy may surprise viewers by ranking 3rd, because many expect the home of the Vatican to be number 1. Rome is the visible center of the global Catholic Church, with St. Peter's Basilica, the Pope, and the institutions that guide Catholic life worldwide. Italy also has more than 81% of its population connected to Catholicism, roughly 50 million people. But Italy's Catholic identity is not limited to the Vatican. It lives in small towns where patron saint festivals fill the streets, in families where grandparents teach children to pray, and in village churches where the rhythm of the Catholic calendar still shapes local life. From Assisi, connected forever with St. Francis, to San Giovanni Rotondo, where pilgrims honor St. Padre Pio, Italy is covered with places where Catholic devotion remains deeply personal. Italy's power is cultural as much as institutional. Sacred art, processions, feast days, family traditions, Marian shrines, and local saints all keep Catholic memory visible in daily life. Italy may not rank first in this countdown, but no serious list of the most Catholic countries in Europe could place it far from the top. Catholicism has shaped how Italians understand beauty, family, suffering, community, and God. Number 2. Poland. Poland stands at number 2 because Catholicism here is not only a matter of identity, it is one of the strongest examples of lived Catholic practice in modern Europe. Around 87 to 90% of the population identifies as Catholic, but Poland's deeper strength is seen in the way faith still enters public life, family life, national memory, and regular religious practice. In a continent where many countries keep Catholicism, mainly as heritage, Poland still shows a form of Catholic life that is visible, organized, and deeply rooted. The difference can be seen on an ordinary Sunday. In many Polish towns and villages, church bells still gather families for Mass. Parents still bring children to parish life. Grandparents still pass down prayers, devotions, and stories of saints. Pilgrimages are not treated as rare events for a small religious minority. They remain part of the national rhythm. Poland continues to stand out in Europe for church attendance, religious education, devotion to the sacraments, and the seriousness with which many Catholics approach confession, feast days, and parish belonging. Polish Catholicism also carries the memory of struggle. During the 20th century, Poland suffered under war, occupation, and communist pressure. In those years, the church became more than a religious institution. It became one of the few spaces where people could gather around truth, dignity, national identity, and hope. A parish church could be a sanctuary for prayer, but also a place where a people remembered that they were not only subjects of a political system, they were children of God, members of a nation, and heirs to a faith older than the powers trying to control them. At the center of this modern memory stands St. John Paul II. His election as Pope was not only a Catholic event. For Poland, it was a moment of spiritual recognition before the eyes of the world. His voice gave courage to millions who had lived under fear. His visits to Poland became more than public ceremonies. They became national awakenings. Moments when crowds gathered not only to see a pope, but to remember who they were. For many Polish families, St. John Paul II remains a fatherly figure, a saint, and a witness that faith can shape history without becoming trapped by politics. Częstochowa gives Poland another powerful spiritual center. The Shrine of the Black Madonna is not simply a beautiful pilgrimage site. It is one of the sacred hearts of the Polish nation. Pilgrims come carrying rosaries, family intentions, illnesses, gratitude, and memories of ancestors who turned to Our Lady in times of danger. For centuries, the image of the Black Madonna has been connected with protection, endurance, and national hope. Poland ranks second because Catholicism here still has both roots and motion. It is found in churches, shrines, families, schools, processions, and in the stubborn memory of a nation that has repeatedly turned to faith when history became heavy. Number 1. Malta. Malta takes the number 1 spot because Catholicism is woven into the island with unusual completeness. More than 93 to 95% of the population is Catholic, placing Malta above every other country in this ranking. But Malta is not only a statistical winner. It is a country where Catholicism shapes public culture, parish identity, family tradition, national memory, and even the legal character of the state. In Malta, Catholic faith is not treated as a fading symbol from the past. It remains one of the clearest foundations of national life. The roots of Maltese Catholicism reach back to the earliest Christian centuries. According to the Acts of the Apostles, St. Paul was shipwrecked on Malta around the year 60 after Christ while being taken to Rome. For Maltese Catholics, that event is more than a biblical memory. It is the sacred beginning of their Christian story. The island sees itself as a place touched by apostolic history, where the faith arrived not as a later cultural import, but as something planted near the beginning of the Church's mission. That origin story still gives Malta a powerful spiritual identity. The figure of St. Paul is not only remembered in churches or history books, he is part of the island's religious imagination. His shipwreck connects Malta to Scripture, to Rome, and to the wider story of the early Church. Few European nations can point to such a direct and dramatic biblical link in their national Christian memory. For a small island in the Mediterranean, that connection gives Catholic identity an extraordinary depth. Malta's physical landscape also tells the story. Across a very small territory, there are more than 360 churches, chapels, and sacred places. Church domes rise above towns and villages. Parish bells mark the rhythm of local life. Feast days fill streets with lights, music, statues, banners, and processions. The Catholic calendar is not hidden inside church buildings. It moves through neighborhoods, families, schools, and public squares. In many communities, the parish is not simply a place people visit. It is the center around which social life, family memory, and local pride often gather. Malta is also distinctive because Catholicism has a recognized place in the country's legal and public identity. This gives the island a different status from many European nations where religion is mostly private or culturally symbolic. In Malta, Catholicism remains visibly connected to education, public ceremonies, moral tradition, and national self-understanding. The country is modern, connected to Europe, and fully part of the contemporary world, yet its Catholic character remains unusually strong. The final reason Malta stands at number 1 is the way faith remains close to ordinary people. Catholicism here is not only found in statistics, laws, or famous churches. It lives in family devotions, parish festivals, baptisms, weddings, funerals, school life, and the public honor given to saints. Malta may be small in land area, but its Catholic presence is immense. It is a country where the apostolic past, the parish present, and the public identity of the nation still meet in one place. Among the most Catholic countries in Europe in 2026, Malta stands as the clearest and most complete Catholic stronghold. Europe may be changing, but this journey shows that Catholic faith is still alive in many places across the continent. From Poland's living practice to Malta's extraordinary Catholic identity, each country reveals a different face of Catholic Europe in 2026. Which country surprised you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you do not miss our next journey into Catholic history and culture.